Hello, family. It's your sister Jocelyn here, and welcome to another episode of Faith on the Journey. If this is your first time tuning in, we welcome you. We are so glad that you are here and want you to know that we're committed to helping you strengthen your faith, heal your heart, and discover a sense of community. And we do so through a variety of ways by helping you to connect with a team of Christian counselors and offering trauma healing trainings across the country. You can learn about these resources and so much more by visiting our website at faithonthejourney.org. Again, that is faithonthejourney.org. Now, today we're welcoming to the show a woman of God who's overcome so many obstacles in life. But through her struggles, she is now using it as her fuel and her passion for the work that she's doing for the kingdom. And so we're so excited to welcome to the show Denise Jones. And so she's here to share her story with us today. Welcome to the show, Denise.
Wow, thank you. Great introduction. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for accepting the invitation. I had to have you when I saw your bio and your story. I wanted my listeners to become familiar with not only what you experienced, but what you overcame and how God brought you through it. And so let's start off by focusing on your testimony. Talk about your life growing up and the things that you experienced as a child and young adult that you had to work through.
Sure. I am the oldest of seven children, right? Growing up on Chicago's West Side along Pulaski, 16th Street, finally in Rockwell Gardens. So coming up in that family, it was dysfunctional, right? Where the gambling was going on, all the partying was going on every weekend, like Sunday through Thursday, the house was like a Christian house, right? Friday night and Saturday night, here come the partying and popping the
Mhm.
cards on the table, and while all that's going on, the drinking going on, then you got the pedophiles in the house, right?
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
You got the grandfather, you got the uncles, you got the friends of the families that's in the house, and my mother would be gone all the time, so my grandmother kind of was the one that raised me. And so my grandfather used to come home drunk on Friday nights and put me on top of his leg, straddle me, and bouncing me up and down with my private part on his leg, but sticking his tongue in my mouth, right? And if it wasn't him, it was my uncle taking me in the closet and doing this, and putting me up against the wall, bouncing on my body, feeling on me. During this time, I had to be somewhere between 4 or 5, right? While this stuff was going on. And it kind of went on until I want to say probably about 8 years old. And then so now I'm introduced to this. And now I goes around the corner and I spends the night with my cousin. And now I want to do some of the things that was being done to me. I'll say about the age of 11, my mom came to my grandmother and said, "Hey, we want her back. I want my children. I want to take them home with me." We moved in with her. It was the best house that you can just, oh my God, it was just such a beautiful home. Had everything that I could think of as a child. That following year, they had a program. We moved to Rockwell Garden. They had a program where the children can go off to like North Dakota for 2 weeks and things like that, summer programs. Me and my sister, we went away. We came back. My mom picked us up at the Union train station. Her and my brother, and we had these strange people with us. I didn't even know who my mother was. She was no longer looking like my mother's name is Annie. We called her May, and she was no longer looking like May. She had changed from looking like a woman. She had this two-tone color natural, and she had these other strange people with her. And I'm asking my brother, who's these people? And they always called me nosy because I was real inquisitive because there was so much stuff that was going on within the household. And so we got back home. She started having, now it's just something how this changed in a 2 weeks time. It had to be going on all the time, but now this was an opportunity for her to introduce it into our household. So she started having all these parties, all these orgies in the household. She started locking us in one bedroom and put the bucket in there for us to have to use the washroom. But again, here, me as a child, real inquisitive, want to know what's going on the outside of these doors because I'm hearing all the music and all the loud talking. And I said to myself, I said, the next time that she has a party, I'm going to bam on the door and say, I have to do number two. And that got me out the room. And she was like, you go to the washroom, you use it, and get yourself back in the room. But I ran and stood in this closet that was next to the washroom. And I snuck out and I stood behind her. When I stood behind her, it was like all these women's in the front room. She had this young lady that was a virgin that was in the front room. Then there was this guy named T, and he was the one. If you wanted to be a part of my mother's and them club, you had to be initiated into their group. So she had this virgin woman that was there, and I'm standing behind my mother, like looking. And all of a sudden, this young lady, her eyes and my eyes, we locked and we caught attention. And she had this look on her face. She was crying, like, help me, help me. And I grabbed my mother because it scared me. And I said, what is he doing to her? Why is he hurting her? Why is he hurting her? And she just turned like it was so casual. Oh, he just took her virginity. Get yourself back in the room. That thing, Jocelyn, messed my little young mind up. After going through with the pedophile and the things that was happening within my grandmother's house, now to come here and see this, it just like blew my mind. And all I said, I hate men. I hate men. I don't never want to have nothing to do with men. They dogs, they hurt. I did not want to have nothing to do with men. Now, mind you, the devil had a plan for my life because he allowed me to see that. And then it took me from out of what I was originally born to be, was a woman, to now I'm starting to want to follow in my mother's footsteps because I no longer want to have anything to do with men. Now, my mother was bisexual, but she took on that role as a hardcore lesbian. So now I'm watching everything she do. I'm following in her footsteps. Then all of a sudden, when I see her doing certain things, I'm putting on her little clothes. I'm starting to do the little things she was doing. She was taking my brother and I, following her to pick up drugs because she was a dope dealer. And she would pick up drugs. She would take us hustling with her. We would pop hubcaps, take them to Jewtown and sell them, come back. She's shooting dope. And I always wanted to know, why you always going in this room?
How old were you when you were starting to do all this?
So 11. So this was
Wow.
11 years old going into 12 when all this stuff started to take place. And she would just take me and just constantly have us to go with her when she picking up the drugs. And again, here I go when we come back. Why you always going in this room? Why every time you take us to go stealing and come back and you going in this room? And so one day she said, Denise, I'm gonna let you come in here. She said, to see what I'm doing because I don't want you to be like me. Mind you, I see her being a lesbian. I see her laying with women. Now you allow me to see you shoot dope. I see her shooting dope. She OD right in front of me. I'm screaming. I'm hollering for help because here I'm thinking my mother done died. And so when she finally gets up, she would send me back again getting dope, send me with the money, tell me how to pack it on my body, how to bring it back, don't stop. So this particular time I said, wow, wow. The devil told me, take 2 bags of dope out. I knew where the needle was. I knew where the tie was. I knew how to cook up because she told me. I'm watching every move. And when I stole this dope, I went into the bathroom after I gave her stuff. Went into the bathroom, tied my hand up, cooked the dope up, and shot right here in my hand. My wrist, my hand just swole up like this because I forgot to untie it. When I untied, then all the drugs just rushed through to my heart and to my head that I thought I was dying. And I went breaking out the building, running to one of the friends' house to tell them what I had done. But I stood up against the wall and I started to slide down this wall. And when I got down to the bottom, I said, this is just like my mother. So I had to took on what I saw that she was doing. Now it scared me, but when it started to mellow out, I was like, this is just like my mother. And I started to just pattern totally after her. I watched everything she did, how she got women, how she was pimping women, because she took me everywhere with her. I learned every trait. How to shoot dope. I learned how to start living as a man. I got turned out by a woman when I was 13 years old to the lesbian lifestyle. She was 8 years older than I was. She turned me out to the lesbian lifestyle. So I'm doing everything that I see my mother doing. My mother started teaching me the pimp game. I started pimping. So I'm doing all this stuff, and I know you say, well, where were you at? You wasn't in school? No, I dropped out of school between the fourth and the fifth grade. One, because I had to try to feed my brothers and sisters because my mother was in the streets. But at the same time, I'm doing what she doing. I'm running to her dope spots. I'm running to the corners picking up her money because she would say, come get this money, right? And I just started to fall in those same footsteps.
That is so much. Oh my goodness. So, okay, tell me what was the turning point for you? And because now the way you're living now is completely 180. So, what happened to cause this to stop?
Listen, so as moving through all that, now I'm living as a man for over 17 years. I'm shooting dope. I done dropped out of school. I was going in and out of jail. I was faced with 60 years in prison for a home invasion and going in, tying up everybody in the house. So God just had favor during that time because I ended up serving a year in the county jail and did 4 years probation, right? It was just God that happened. So I'm back out in the streets. I'm getting high and I'm doing this. My mom was pregnant and I went to go stop by to see about it. She wanted me to stay there to help her. And this was in 1986. I'm sitting in her garage. By this time, my mother had gotten her life together. So she had gave her life to the Lord. I'm sitting in her garage. I am shooting dope and smoking crack cocaine. And because I had abscesses all over my body and I'm trying to get a hit, the drugs were just skeeting out. So I'm tired. I'm burnt out. I'm burnt up. And I'm like, Lord, if you did this for my mother, if you changed my mother's life, is there any hope for me? Lord, can you change my life? Because I knew that I was dying. I knew that I was going down. When I tell you that I was skinny, if you look at my book, you'll see the pictures. My face was looking like Rocky Mountain. I have no makeup on, but I had bumps and spots all over my face, right? I mean, I was messed up. This one Sunday, July the 10th, 1986, I got up and I went to that same church. And when I got there, of course, the word of God was coming forth. And somehow that message changed, Jocelyn. The message changed. And the message started coming directly toward me. Woman, you don't have to continue to live like this. Woman, if you continue living like this, you're going to die. And just begin to just tug and pull at my heart. And I'm looking around, I'm like, who he talking to? You know, I knew it was for me, right? But I'm trying to turn it around because he was calling it out. You don't have to continue to live like this. God didn't call you to be like this. God loves you. Just begin to just pull that message in, right? And because by me hating, I had a hatred for men, right? So now God using a man to say this, but I didn't want to hear it, right? I'm like, no, 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 no. No. I ain't trying to hear that, right? And I started feeling like, man, who told him about my story? And he continued to just pull. He began to say, saints, pray. I'm fishing. I'm fishing. God got a soul here that he wants. I'm fishing. I'm fishing. I'm sitting in my seat. I'm nervous. One part of me is saying, Lord, help me. Help me, Lord. Then there's that pride that I'm battling with. No, I ain't going up there. I'm DJ. I ain't finna. No, 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 no. You ain't finna put me on the front seat. And I sit there. He began to come out the pulpit, Jocelyn. He began to come out the pulpit and he walked up that middle aisle. And he stopped right there. He said, Saints, are you praying with me? Are you praying? And he turned and he bent down to me. He said, Denise, he said, you don't have to continue to live like this. God sent you here today to be set free. God sent you here. He want to heal you. He said, you will not die. He said, God want to heal you. And I sat there and I was just crying. And he said, come on, Denise, stand on your feet. Get up on your feet. I wouldn't budge. He took his hand, Jocelyn, and he extended his hand. It was, I could only just describe, it just felt like a superpower that was overtaking him. He stretched out his hands like this, and I put my hands in his hand. He lifted me up and walked me up toward the altar. He said, sisters. He said, come on. He said, sisters, come on, come on, come on, sisters. And the sisters came up and they began to pray for me, right? And when they got through praying for me, He was standing there and he said, "Come here, Denise." And when he came, Jocelyn, he took his arms and wrapped around me. Lord Jesus. Woo!
That's so beautiful. Mm.
Jocelyn, I felt something down on the inside break. And it was like the breaking of day that had came up. It was like this bright light, the breaking of day that had came up. And I said, Lord, I said, you so good to me. You so good to me. From that day, Jocelyn, to this day, I have not went back and shot dope. I have not went back and stuck up. I have not went back and burglarized. I have not went back and played checks. I have not went back and laid with women. Jocelyn, I took off the men's drawers. I took off the men's personal pieces. When I tell you that God did a work on me, God did a work on my life.
That is amazing. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. And with that, and I mean, not everybody, so anyone who's listening right now, not everybody has the miraculous same story as Denise in terms of their breakthrough. For some, it might be a longer journey, but we thank God that in some instances it happens like that. And that was amazing what your experience was. And so from that moment, you gave that lifestyle up, you changed things, you were like, okay, I'm starting over. But I'm still sure you had to deal with some consequences that you were having to now navigate with changing your life. So how did you begin to rebuild and start anew with this new relationship with God?
It was a struggle. It was a struggle. Okay. Yes, that was the first step of me giving God my life, giving him the opportunity to do something for me in my life, right? But you got to think about it. I had to allow him to change my mindset, right? You talking about somebody had got introduced to the lesbian lifestyle and shooting drugs at the age of 12 years old. So I lived those things. When I tell you I lived them to the fullest, to the max, right? So God had to come in and change my mindset. But through all that, I still was struggling because that the devil was trying to pull me back, right? I'm still seeing women that's looking good. I'm still, when I didn't have a job and didn't have money because I'm used to hustling, I'm still feeling the pull. Denise, go snatch them purses. Denise, go play them checks. I had a support circle around me that I was able to come to them. And when I tell you there are some things, Jocelyn, that was going on, I had this support circle that I could come back and say, listen, I feel like I want to do this. I feel like I want to do that. So they didn't frown down on me. They didn't look on me. And through that was how I was able to have the strength to, just continue to allow the work to begin in me. I started to learn how, listen, I came out of my pants. I came out of men drawers. I had to unband my breasts, learn how to put a bra on, learn how to put women panties on, stockings on. I'm telling you, it was a true transformation. God taught me how to go and buy these things. God taught me how to put these things on and begin to look like what I was born to be and what he called me to be. So it was years of work and process. But what happened through the process? Yes, I went back to some of the old neighborhoods. I went back to being around some of the people. But because God put a mark on my life, my friends started saying, "Listen, man, either you gonna go serve that Jesus, or you gonna come on back and be DJ." And when they said that, I said, I'm serving Jesus. And I made my mind up to stop going around them old people, places, and things and start running and hanging with some new people.
That's right. You had to change your environment because the other environment was going to bring you right back in the fold. And sometimes you got to do that. Most of the times you got to do that because it's too tempting to be able to do that. And so you went through this process. And I know, I mean, what you described in 2 minutes is just like the icing. It's just a cliff note version of what you actually had to go through in terms of the struggle and pressing through. But you said you had a community that supported you. God's grace covered you, and you begin to make these changes. And eventually, now you are doing some great work for the community. So I want you to talk about that when you were working on yourself, you were working on your healing, and eventually God was calling you to do work beyond just yourself. When did that take place?
So I want to say within the 10 years of just allowing this process and this work to happen to me, right? And during that process, I had started to write a book. And I had a passion for always going back, trying to grab somebody and get them. But I couldn't help nobody until I got myself in a position, you know. And so during that process, and I began to write this book because so many things was going on with me. I thought people didn't understand me. And I said, Lord, why is they saying this? Why is they saying that? And in a dream, God began to deal with me, and I started to write down the things that He was showing me. He showed me why my life was messed up, right? And I began to write those things. He showed me how the molestation and the incest and all that kind of stuff started. He just took me through a pattern, why and how I got messed up. And so God had to begin to shave me. He had to peel me like an onion, started to take those things off so that I can go back and do a work for Him. So once God began to do that, and my passion has always been to go to the jails, to go back to the street, and I started to working in the street ministry. I started to going to the homeless shelters, going on the streets to the prostitutes, witnessing to them, bringing them to the church. Look, I know you could get like me. Come on and go with me. And I started to do that. So all the way up from that time to now is what I still do on a, on a regular basis. I go to Florida, I go down to Ohio, I've been to Belize, going to the different prisons, the substance abuse facilities, just teaching and telling somebody about this hope and telling them how to walk this walk, how to make this transition, right? And that's what I do.
That's amazing. That's beautiful. And for someone who is listening right now, who feels like they are beyond hope, like they are in the dumps, things look gloomy, they don't think that change is possible for them, what words of encouragement would you give them?
One of the things that I would say, who against hope, believe in hope. You might be feeling hopeless, but as long as you're breathing, there is always some hope. It's just that little ounce, and all it takes is one person to come by and just give you just a word. And if you're ready, you're gonna grab hold to that word, and it's gonna lead you to Jesus, who can give you that full transformation, who can give you the peace that you're looking for, who can wipe away the tears, right? Who can wipe away all the embarrassment, all the shame, anything that has happened to you. You will find it in Jesus.
I love that you talked about shame and embarrassment because I think sometimes that's really burdening us when we make mistakes, when we feel like I blew it and people are going to judge me, people are going to look at me. And so for you, how did you work through any shame? Did you feel shame when you were in the transition period? And what helped you to release the shame?
One of the things I remember when I was in the jail, I was locked up in one of the neighborhood jails, and I was in the cell, and you know how they make you get out your clothes and all that kind of stuff, right? And one of the guards, I heard her saying, "Oh, we got a bull dagger back there. She got on men drawers and everything, right?" Listen, in that jail, I stepped out the men drawers and left the men drawers right there in that jail, right? But at the same time, because there was a spirit that was controlling and governing me, I came out and put them back on. But it was that embarrassing moment. And so because the streets and the world saw me as DJ, saw me as the drug addict, saw me as all these things, what I had to do was say this. They already know who I am. Why am I being ashamed? They know who I am. So I use that as a tool to step up on, because through all the embarrassing, the moment I started to allow God to scale things off of me, that was bringing me up out of my shameness. I make no apology for nothing that I have been through in my life. Everything has become a stepping stone to get me where I am today. So that's how I managed to move past shame, because you got to realize this. Your family already saw you. Your friends already saw you. You know what I'm saying? The people you was getting high saw you. So who are you really being ashamed for? So when you really look at it, it's just the pride. Because everybody see you already. And you got to be willing to take accountability, who you are, what you have done, so that you can move forward.
That accountability is so huge, right? Like taking accountability, and that's hard, right? Because when you really see things for what they are, sometimes it's like, I'm the worst. But knowing who we are in Christ and realizing that God, already had a plan to redeem us. He knows that we a mess without him, but he still loves us unconditionally. And that's that agape love, right? That belongs to all of us as children of God. And so I love your outlook. I love how God has kept you. I love what you're doing now for the kingdom. And just say a little bit about your organization. You have more than one organization, is that correct? Briefly just kind of talk about that, the name of your organization, how people can support you.
Correct. So what I did was I formed a non-for-profit organization, which is Tender Touch, and that is for formerly incarcerated women and young girls, right? Being able to put them through life skill job trainings, and then I end up opening up a for-profit Diamond Seven cleaning company, right? And that was to help to balance them off and bring them over through my program, through a paid program, to be able to bring some sustainability to them.
That's wonderful. I love the social enterprise model that you have set up, and that's a great way to inspire, to give them opportunities, and to pour back into your community in your heart and your passion work. And as you mentioned, nothing is wasted when we give it to God. And so, even though you went through such tremendous trauma, you surrendered your story, your life to God, and God was able to redeem and now use you for some tremendous work for the kingdom. And so, it's very powerful what you're doing, powerful what you're doing. And I just thank you so much for being on the show today, being so authentic and real about your testimony. I know it encouraged other people, and I just pray that God continues to bless you with the resources you need to help save lives, to help transform lives, and help people to have hope and heal. So thank you so much, Denise, for being on the show with us today.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, I mean, that's all my life. That's all I have. That's all I have to give, and that's to be able to give hope, and help somebody transform like I did. And that's what it's about. So I truly appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Denise. Thank you for being here. And we'll make sure that people are able to see how they can connect with you in the show notes today. And I thank you all for tuning into this episode of Faith on the Journey. Wow, her testimony was powerful. And I hope that you're encouraged by it and reminded about how God can redeem anyone, because we have a loving, powerful God. And if you were encouraged by today's episode, I want you to do a couple things for me. First, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, or share this with a friend if you're listening on a podcast. And I want you to leave a 5-star review if you're listening on an Apple podcast. That helps us to get this message out to more people. And so I just thank you for tuning in and watching today's episode. And if you are looking for a Christian counselor or trauma healing training, make sure that you reach out to us on our website at faithonthejourney.org. Again, that is faithonthejourney.org. So that's it for this week, family. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, you stay encouraged, you stay blessed, and you keep your faith on the journey. I'll see you soon, family.